why and when to use your wide-angle lens for portrait. Welcome back, I'm Jimmy Chang, a professional photographer and filmmaker based in London. Today's video is the start of my short series on portraiture, as I received a few comments from my Instagram asking if I can make some videos explaining why and when to use wide-angle lens for portraiture. Over the course of next few months, I'll be making a few videos on this topic, focus on one focal length at a time. So if you want to learn more about how to maximize your vision when taking portraits, remember to subscribe so you won't miss any videos from this series. Today, I want to talk about wide angle, and more specifically 35mm in 135 format, or full frame. To demonstrate, I will be showcasing photos that I took with this particular focal length. But before I go further though, just a friendly notice that I shoot micro four thirds now. So all the sample photos you see in these videos, unless they are labeled specifically, were shot with my Olympus micro four thirds cameras and this particular 17mm 1.2 Pro lens, which has an equivalent angular view of 34mm in full frame. Just a little background about me, so you know that I'm not talking rubbish here. I've been taking portraits of different types and styles over the last 16 years, from family to wedding to strangers on the street. I've won awards and published over the past decade. So I'm no stranger when it comes to this particular topic. For many, especially beginner photographers, who often thought that they can only photograph portraits with a portrait lens. Well, in many minds, a portrait lens is something like a 85mm or 135mm lens on a full frame camera, or equivalents in other formats. The truth is, these focal lengths were actually passed down from larger format cameras. Most of the olden day photographers were portrait photographers. And because of these focal lengths would yield a more natural compression for both half length and headshots. So this look has been the golden standard for anyone who's shooting portraits. Like I mentioned in my previous video about crop format, this look was adapted when more photographers migrated from large format to medium format and ultimately to 135 format or today's full frame. Of course, an 85mm lens on the large format cameras would behave very differently and more like a wide-angle lens due to the size of the negative, and becomes a normal lens on a medium format, and again a short medium tele on a full frame camera or 135. And if you're a little confused about what I just said here, I would suggest you to see my video on understanding crop formats and read some of the articles I linked in that particular video description. Anyway, this clears one myth, is that there is no default focal length for portraits, or more precisely, angular view. Therefore, you can practically use anything that will fit the bill for your subjects. I personally love using wide-angle lens for portraitures, and over 80% of my commercial assignments were conducted using 35mm focal length or 17mm in micro four thirds. And this is how I prefer my photographs to express and present to my viewers. But why is the question in this video. Aside from artistic and visual expression, using wide-angle lens for portraiture has three distinctive advantages. First is the ability to absorb surrounding into the frame. This is particularly important if you want your photograph to tell a story and to add texture to your frame. Remember, portraits isn't just about subject isolation. Shooting with deeper depth of field involving the surrounding can drastically change the dynamic of the photograph by giving your picture music to accompany to a beautiful voice you want to portray. And that beautiful voice is your subject. Second, wide-angle photographs usually have more impact in the more active scenes, essentially giving your viewers a more immersive experience, almost can imagine themselves being there when you took that photograph. This is why many documentary and journalists love to use wide-angle lens to cover a story. As you are shooting very close to your subjects, you're basically inviting your viewers to look into the frame with you. Third, distortion. Before Photoshop, photographers love to use distortions to help shape their subjects. A wide-angle lens can create an optical effect that makes your subject to have longer limbs or slimmer bodies and faces. And this is still used today by some skilled photographers, but definitely less common as things can easily be done or manipulated digitally in post. Okay, so far so good. Whether you're using a 24mm, 35mm, or even 40mm, if you understand well what I just said, you can create some rather impactful storytelling photographs. However, there are something you should be aware of. First, distortion. Now you know that a wide-angle lens can slim your subject, but unless you're craving for some rather unusual visual, a wide-angle lens can also distort your subject's face when shooting too close. So, understanding the relationships in compression with your chosen focal length is very critical to take advantage of wide-angle portraiture. Second, texture. Yes, I just said that this is important to create a story for your photograph. And because it's important, it needs to be carefully planned. And every little detail needs to be checked before you hit that shutter button, because it can make or break your photograph. Finally, because you're using wide-angle lens and going very close to your subject, you need to gain their trust. And this is perhaps one of the most difficult parts for any portrait photographer. Communication needs to be constant, and you need your subjects to feel easy. And that way, you can make some natural and impactful portraits when you go up close. A successful wide-angle portrait needs a lot more energy and planning and longer focal lengths. By involving the environment into the shot, it makes it harder for a photographer to assert his or her idea and vision. But when you master it, you will thank me, as you understand more elements in portraiture than many average photographers out there. This brings to the end of our first chapter. And remember, I will make a few of these videos covering various different focal lengths so you can get a complete understanding of why a photographer chooses a particular focal length to do a certain type of photograph. And even my videos are portrait related, some of the elements I mentioned in this video is transferable to other genre, once you learn the essence of them. So I hope you enjoyed today's video and you know what to do now. Thumb if you liked it and sub if you want to stay in touch with all things photography. Peace. Well, that's it. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave some comments below, and if you want me to talk about something else, other things that you may want to learn in the future, yeah, please do tell me, because this channel is shaped by you. And also, I think this is really good for me to finally stepping out from gear reviews and also start to talk about photography in a more deeper sense, in a more artistic way, more than just tips and tricks, because I know Robin and Peters are doing really well, and I don't want to overlap the contents. Not that I don't want to do any of those, but it's well covered. Peter and Robin, they seriously, they have so much content about using your Micro Four Thirds cameras, Olympus in particular, of course. But me, I just want to be more universal. I just want to make sure that whatever gear you use, whatever formats you use, you'll benefit from the content I generate here. Even though I'm a Micro Four Thirds shooter, because I just have a lot of knowledge that I want to share, and this is really the best time for me to do it now. And especially London is probably going to lock down again soon. Yeah, this is not great. I mean, I haven't been going out for shooting because all these new Omicron variant of COVID is kind of lurking around now, and this seems to be expanding, and yeah, just not very good to hear. But anyway, I really hope that you enjoyed this particular video, and like I said, I'll be making more and more. Portraiture is really my specialty here, so I have a lot to talk about it. But like I said, also towards the end of the video, a lot of the ideas is transferable to other genre. It's no difference in that, because like distortions and textures and stuff like that, they are totally transferable to other different type of photography. You just have to bear it in mind. So once you understand everything that I said, you should be able to take some good photographs. But of course, I'll expand, outside of portraiture when the time arrives. Anyway, I'll speak to you all later, and remember to subscribe if you want to stay tuned for more videos like this. And also, I have a lot more planned in the near future. I don't want to spoil it now, so you just have to stay in touch. Bye for now.